What's up, guys? Welcome back to Zodiac Trader. So today we're going to cover a rather interesting topic, and yes, we're still going to follow more on the China's property lifeline. And today we're going to look at how these huge housing bubble could collapse and potentially impact the entire world. And I've been saying this for a long time. If you're interested, you can watch the previous video. I made a lot of videos explaining what is really going on inside of the Chinese economy black box, especially the Chinese real estate market. And I've been saying this for a long time. I'm saying the Chinese real estate bubble will collapse uh, in the end of this year, and now we're seeing this, even though in a very slow motion, but it's still happening. There are three aspects that you could look at. First of all, if you actually check, if you're a foreigner, it's if you don't really know Chinese, it would be difficult for you to actually learn the actual, like the real estate trading price, because it's if you need a Chinese phone number to register, and because for most of the Chinese application, the app, you need a cell phone number to be able to activate. That means if you want to buy a house, if you want to access your data, you need to use your maybe your Visa, and then to apply for a phone number, and then plug that SIM card into your phone machine. That's how you can start to use these app. And then you have to know Chinese, and you should be able to type Chinese term, for example Shanghai. Maybe you're looking for a condo, if you're looking for a mansion, or maybe you're looking for ordering house. It would be difficult for any foreigner to really kind of access to the real time, real life, bids and odds of the Chinese property. So it would be real difficult for analysts, for like foreign analysts, to really know what's really going on inside the Chinese property market, because apparently most of the analysts from hedge funds, from maybe from Bloomberg, from other financial institutions, they probably don't have the experience to live in China, not to mention they have the actual data. So, and also because most of the like these real estate online trading app, they don't really kind of show you the transaction price. They won't show you the details of the transaction. So they are hiding most of the secrets. So it becomes more like like you go to an auction, you plan to buy a house, but then turns out you don't really have any details or whatsoever. They will give you they will give you a price that would just ambiguous. That's a very ambiguous price. They will just give you a price. If you don't really like it, they will give you a discount. And if you kind of you want to argue the price, if you don't really want to argue the price, you get you get that bid, and you're probably gonna buy the house a lot more expensive than other bidder. So that's the case. You're kind of going to a blind audit, audit thing. It's like you don't really get to know what would be the lowest price in this district. It would be impossible for foreigners to know if the housing prices are actually going down. So you can only observe China's property price through, for example, commercial real estate, to look at the LGFVs, to look at these huge loan problem, see if they have actual defaults. And which is the reason why because of the lack of transparency, a lot of large hedge funds, large endowment funds, and all these funds, they've been buying these Chinese real estate John bonds for high yields, but also very high risky, and now turns default. Now we have been covering this for some time. We're saying this Evergrande corporate bonds, and also for the garden and etc. So you start seeing a lot of Chinese real estate bond default. So that's the problem, because you don't get to see the details. They don't have any transparency or whatsoever. So you can only look at like several indicators, very limited indicators to really understand what's going on. So right now the situation is far greater than people can perceive, can understand. And I'm going to move on to the second point, which I'll also explain why this real estate market is collapsing in slow motion. So what really happened here is a lot of, because there are a huge amount of Chinese property real estate companies and developers, they are going bankrupt and going default. So what really happened with the Evergrande and also the Garden Corp is that the regulation and also the authority refused to let them go default or to let them bankrupt. So it kind of give foreign investor impression that these companies are not, going through a bankrupt. So the problem is still, there is still a solution, but the fact is, that the authority has control of these CEOs and the company holder. So it's impossible for them to, go away. So the company is not likely to bankrupt. For that, it's like a zombie company, right? You have CEO um, being controlled 24 hours by, these special government agency, and you cannot move. You cannot actually walk out of your office because if you dare to walk out of that office, something would happen to your family. So that's really what's going on. And I'm not being like, like a conspiracy theorist here. If you are really interested, you can just go on Google. There are plenty of, if you learn Chinese, there are plenty of the news covering these kind of topics. And also, because of the fact that company management have been controlled and they are forced not to be able to bankrupt. So that's why what they're trying to do now is they're trying to save the banks because this is very interesting in China because a lot of real estate developers, they are not only taking money from people who wants to buy the house from the consumer, they're also stealing money from the banks. And this is how the game is played. They will, because the only legit collateral in China is the land, but if you really need if you want to have lands to develop those real estate, you need permission. Of course, you don't own land in China. It's forbidden, right? You can only, you're only allowed to have like 70 years of the right to use the land, not the ownership. So that's the case. If any huge or medium or say any house developer want to build any houses, they can not only like buy lands, they have to buy permissions and the land on like the permission to use the land. It's like you're paying the rent to the government, right? You are paying a big sum, and after maybe a couple years they will change your ownership, or say the right to use the land to other people, and who knows, because there is no ownership of the land. This is one of the huge difference between Chinese real estate market and the foreign real estate market. Take example of US, maybe UK. You own the land, so you actually have a land law, right? So if you have any confusions, if the government wants to do anything, they cannot take or strip your ownership out of the land. So real estate, it's not like you have so much bubble on these assets. What happened in China is if a real estate developer wants to build houses, they get for permission. After that, they will use the land to to actually borrow money from the commercial banks. That's the only way, because there are a lot of banks in China. This is what's most important. Like the biggest difference between China and Western countries is that in China there is no domestic credit system. That means most of people don't have credit cards. People don't really have tax records. So in this situation, it's difficult for you to get their credit situation, to get their credit score, or to get their tax situation. So um, in this financial environment, it's difficult. If you're individual, it's so difficult for you to borrow money from the bank. So if you are ordinary family from China, if you want to buy a house, you pay 30% of the of the of the fund upfront, and then you probably end up, borrowing. You need a lot of paperwork, so you get, the rest of the 70% probably from the bank, but much higher interest rate. We're talking about 6%, 7%. On top of that, you also pay a lot of guanxi fee and etc. But if you are a national-owned enterprise, say you are, a big bank or a big real estate developer, it'd be much easier for you to borrow money from the bank because you have the land, you have the permission. So it ends up, huge listed companies like Evergrande, they're borrowing a lot of money from commercial banks. Sometimes they even, like over collateralize. Sometimes they kind of, like just not just borrow one time, but maybe twice. And that's ridiculous. You probably would ask, okay, so these commercial banks been, lending money to the real estate developer. What then? So what happened is in some cases this money wouldn't wouldn't be wired to a third party. In most cases, in most developing countries and most developed country in the Western world, if you're buying houses and you pay a real estate developer, these money would go to a third party, right? So the third party would just monitor these funds, and before you get your house, the money simply won't be transferred to the real estate developer. That's the case. But in China, what happened here is a lot of real estate developer, uh, people, consumers, they're paying for the houses, so the money the money is supposed to wire to the third party, but then the money is not going to the third party. On the other hand, the money is wired to commercial bank, which is colluded with companies like Evergrande. So that means the real estate developer, they could just steal money from the consumer. Even though like they haven't finished the houses, they haven't finished the real estate, they can still take a lot of money out of their consumer because they are colluding with the commercial banks. And what happened is because of that, we are seeing a huge amount of bad debt. We're seeing huge amount of bad loans being made from these commercial banks. We're talking about serious collusion. We're talking about serious, um, very very serious debt crisis here. Because for the real estate developer, you don't really need to finish building your whatever you are building, right? You don't need to really deliver the house for your consumer to be able to get the money back. You just need to get lands, collude with a bank, pay them some money, and then you can con this money from consumer who wants to buy houses, and just keep leverage, keep adding leverage on top of it. This is what Hoi Ka-yan has been doing for all these years. People thought that he is actually building a lot of houses and there is a huge demand of the real estate market, but it's all bubble, right? It's just because he knows there is a loophole in Chinese financial system that he can take his hands, put it inside of these, um, people who are paying for the houses, we're consumers' pocket, and take out billions of dollars without actually deliver any houses. So what happened is all these houses would become, all these ghost town that you can use any satellite. You see a lot of places they're actually, ghost town. Because why? Because you can simply just get a land, get permission, pay for a local banker, collude with them, and you con this money because these banks will transfer this money directly to you. So for as a house developer, there is no point for you to deliver the house. You already get the money, right? It's for you just to go away. Maybe you just wire this money to US or other countries so you can retire and have fun forever. That's the case. That's the reason why we're heading to a huge debt crisis. It's not like out of derivative. It just what happened inside of the seriously gone wrong with the financial system. So this is the second aspect. The third aspect is like right now the Chinese government decided to add, some, policies and methodologies try to save these banks. So what happened here is the government is forcing these commercial banks to give leasing and loans to the local governments, and also giving free loans or very cheap loans to those business entities. But this is against the gravity, the basic formula of a free market mechanism. Is that you, as for any business to run solidly, you need someone who is paying for your product. You need cash flow. That's the case. Even though if you're a bank, if you are lending this money to other people, the first concern for you is that you need to check if these agency or these company that you're going to lend money to, you want to know if they can generate cash flow. You want to know if they have good asset situation. You want to know their balance sheet and financial statement inside out. You need to do your due diligence. So that's why even in financial crisis, even in the TARP, trouble trouble relief asset program that the U.S. Treasury, that they release this program, even though in that situation, um, people still do due diligence. People lend money to companies that with relatively better financial health. But right now, in this case, you're seeing a lot of commercial banks in China. We're talking about top 10 commercial banks. They're already in this shit. They're already stuck in this debt crisis because their local bank, their local branch have leased and have lent so much money, and these money be laundered and being wired to other places, and be transferred to the real estate developer or the bankers on pocket. In other words, if the banks is lending out this money, there is no coming back. How are you going to get any revenue? And on top of that, you have a deflation thing, right? You're seeing an interest rate probably going slightly lower, but at the same time, you have weakening economic activity, you have capital outflow, you have less consumers willing to pay for their houses because their jobs getting less job opportunity, there will be less job opportunities, and they not be able to get their paycheck on timely fashion. These people, they have less revenue, so naturally they are not able to support houses. So how are you going to sell houses for cash flow? How are you going to um, get back from what you have created? It's impossible. So right now the government trying to give these 10 banks unsecured loans. It's going to end badly, all right? It's like I know you cannot sell any houses, but still I'm going to give you loan. So whatever you do, just push all these banks to get rid of these loans, to give this free money to the entity. Even though people are not willing to buy the home, people are not willing to to purchase these houses or to save this real estate developer, these companies are going down, to be honest. That's the thing. So the economy overall is very sluggish. So I don't think this strategy will work. And I highly question the nature of these policy because it's not a free market mechanism, right? if you're in a free market, you do not force a commercial bank to lend money to someone, or to say window guidance. That's the precise word that you're using. Okay, so um, this is all crazy. So we are definitely going to see more pressures mounting on Chinese banks' bad loans. We're going to see that the Chinese economy shrinks even further because according to the policy they use and also the purchase power and the fact that a lot of foreign companies and entities are flying out of China right now. So according to all the above three aspects that I think right now, to extend these obscure loans is not only a risky move, it is an it is a dead end. Okay, so if you are foreigner thinking about investing in China, you probably need to think again. If you are thinking Chinese real estate properties are very cheap, and right now you want to head to Hong Kong or maybe head to Shanghai to buy some properties, I also suggest you to think twice before you pay out, or otherwise you may become like a 韭菜. In 韭菜 actually means a dickhead. You end up paying money for nothing. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you like the content I'm sharing, please subscribe and click the like button for me. I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.